It's a oh well.
Sponsored by your mom.
Sponsored by your mom.
Your mom, Diane Brogan.
Welcome to the Backpack Show, everybody. I wonder if they even know that there's a show today. I feel
You
like
may have noticed that today is Tuesday, which is not the day we usually air, but somebody has a big keynote event that he's delivering as soon as we go on, where we would normally go on Friday. So here we are on Tuesday, and we have a very special guest I'm really excited about.
Ostensibly, her name is Briana Marbury. So
that is in fact her name. It sounds very glamorous, like a 1940s film star, but Brianna is the executive director of Interledger.org. And the Interledger Protocol and the Interledger Foundation, which are two separate things, are building access to financial pathways around the world for billions of people.
I have 10 billion questions, so at least one for every person and then some leftovers.
At least.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
Backpack Show is brought to you by your mom.
I was going to say, hey, did you see who snuck in?
Sure did.
Mom. Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, Chloe. So, yeah, you know what we should do? I've heard of some shows that do this.
Oh, yeah.
Our show is sponsored by StreamYard. You can get your own show just like this. cbrogan.me/StreamYard.
You can just get your own tech financial philanthropist. You'll be all set.
Oh my God. I have a million questions for Brianna. We're sponsored by .online. Do you want your own .online domain? You can get one for one smackaroo. That's right. $1, 100 pfennig. Go to cbrogan.me/online. Use the code Chris.
All caps.
And you can dig right in.
I don't know why it's all caps, but it's all caps. You cannot get your mom is .online because I tried and it's already taken.
Hey, you want an audio schmaudio podcast? You can get one. Castos.com. It's just like peas in a pod over there. Really nice service, really easy to use. And our friend Matt Medeiros works over there. So he seems nice.
Make yourself an audio podcast. Hey, guess what? Your dad's here too.
My biological father, Steve Brogan.
Hello.
He was the one who verified that there's going to be a show.
The one and only recipient of the very special person of the day Backpack Show jacket, Coach Woodard.
Coach Woodard, now in California. Formerly, briefly in Mexico, I think he said.
Is that right? We wouldn't need a jacket there.
One last ad. Pre-search. If you don't want to use Google search anymore, and why would you?
Go to presearch.com.
Go to presearch.com. It's its own search engine. There's so many more things you can do. Plus, there's crypto inside it. You could stake your coins and own a word. So you could own, finances.
I can make it so when somebody searches for your mom, they get like your mom's blog or something.
That's right. I like your plan.
I like it too. Now we can get into it. Let's get into it. Now we have the whole rest of the time for Brianna.
And we're going to learn about the Interledger, which is not the internet. And I found out just this morning, not even really just the blockchains.
What?
So
you'll
see. Hi, Brianna.
Hi, good morning.
That is, in fact, your real name. Let's just clear that up.
It is my real name. You two are the two only people who have ever said that to me.
Just so glamorous.
That's so funny. Thanks.
So clear us up on this technology. So Interledger Foundation, we have to go. There's so many things we have to talk about, but start on the tech, because only I care about this question. It borrows a bit from IP, like Internet Protocol, which is a stack with 7 different layers to it. And it borrows a bit from the idea of blockchain ledgers, but not really. And that was kind of a 2005 or so, I think that came around. Well, what is Interledger and why are you walking around making people think they need some of it?
Okay, so I will start kind of from the beginning and why it was created. Stefan Thomas and Evan Schwartz saw how difficult it was to to send payments across the world. So Stefan used to be a developer, and he was a freelancer, and he was living overseas and in a different country. He's originally from Germany, and he did not, he wasn't able to get paid the way that he needed to. And so he had difficulty opening up a bank account. And because of that, he ended up bouncing a couple of checks and wasn't able to pay his rent on time, and just saw how difficult it was for him, who was a person of privilege, to be able to pay his bills. And when they were working for Ripple, because him and Evan used to work for Ripple, they were trying to pay a developer in another country. I'd say Pakistan, that might be the wrong country. But by the time it went through all the fees and the banks and the routes to get to the person, they basically had no money left. And so they saw the system as just being clunky and inefficient. And so they started building Interledger, what was now known as Interledger, and it was based off of the internet. So the way the internet sends money, sends data from one place to another very fast and very cheaply. The Interledger protocol is the same thing. And so it sends money from one place to another very fast and very cheaply, ideally. We have a lot of people on the network.
So is it its own standalone platform insofar as, there's PayPal out there, there's Venmo out there, there's all these other things.
Yeah.
But those are, by the way, very, Western centric.
Yes.
There's still a lot of challenges on them. Is Interledger its own financial platform? And if so, how do you get how do people adopt it or not adopt it? Is it the kind of thing where you have to go all the way out to like points of service and have it's like a Western Union kind of a connection? Like how does the infrastructure connect, I guess?
Yeah, so the way that you have Cash App and Venmo, those are all kind of closed networks. So if you had Cash App, I had Venmo, we can't pay each other unless one of us gets the other's apps. So what the Interledger protocol is, it is the rails that the money travels on. So if you have an open network, so those are all closed networks. If you have an open network, then I would be able to pay you with your Venmo and my Cash App without us having to get the other one's apps. And you can pay someone in a different country. So it doesn't have to be in the same country. And it's currency agnostic. So if you wanted to receive Bitcoin for my USD, you wanted to receive Thai baht and to XRP, you could do that. So it's a currency agnostic.
So why is it so important? So there's two things. There's the technology, then there's the protocol. Why do we need any of it? And what's the difference?
Well, for people who are overseas trying to get money, it's slow and it's really costly. For people who are sending money home, so for instance, I'm from Jamaica, my family's from Jamaica, and trying to send money home is just so expensive. And it's expensive and it's slow. Usually these emergencies happen. You need to get money to people quickly. And the amount of fees that we paid in the US last year, it was $16 billion in fees that we paid last year. So imagine a portion of that money going towards these other economies and the impact that it could make for their lives and countries.
So what's the difference between the technology, the Interledger technology, and the protocol?
So it is the Interledger protocol is the technology, basically. Okay. It's a set of rules on a piece of paper that you kind of abide by.
So you can write apps in the technology based on following the protocol.
Yes.
Is what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So micropayments is another way to look at this. This is a platform that's very similar to micropayments. Mm-hmm. One of my experiences with that was at the very 2003 or so. And what was going on there was mobile micropayments. Is this specific to web platforms? Is this conducive to mobile where so much of the world only has a handheld device? How does that work out in other areas?
So yes, it can be used for both web and mobile devices. A good example of a piece of Interledger that is used is with Mojaloop. And Mojaloop you've heard of it, Chris?
On your website.
Oh, okay.
So so fast.
Mojaloop uses a piece of the protocol, and they really look at mobile money providers because the way that all these mobile providers popped up is because a lot of banks looked at people in developing countries, and the amount of transactions that they were sending, it just wasn't enough for them to invest in a bank and put branches in people's areas. They kind of were ignored. And so these mobile money providers popped up as like a gap stop in between. And people are able to send money from one person to another through their mobile phones. While they might not have internet access, they do have, like, I think 65% of the world's unbanked do have access to mobile phones. And so Moja Loop uses those mobile phones to be able to be interoperable between networks. They're like a hub and spoke type of program. So, yeah.
The foundation is separate too, right? You run a foundation as well.
Yes. So the foundation is separate from the technology. And the foundation was created because when you have trademarks and patents, and Interledger does not belong to, it's not tied to one company or a blockchain or anything like that. So you need a neutral place that's going to hold all the trademarks and patents. And we also, as I'm on the show now, we're advocates of the protocol. And so we want to get the word out there about it. Like, this is amazing technology that can be life-changing for so many people. So that's why the foundation was created. And so at the foundation, we have a grant for the web program, and we are exploring open payments programs that we are trying to research and start a program based around open payments, which is what I was talking about with the interoperability. Grant for the web is based on web monetization or micropayments, as Chris mentioned. And so those are two different capabilities of the technology. So micropayments and open payments.
Is open payments basically a set of agreements? So for instance, I'm a bank over here, there's a bank over there. I'm a user of some Interledger app way over here, and I say, you know, it hits my bank, it goes to this other bank. The open payment part is them saying, that's fine, you come through, we know what you're about, and then it goes out to the other place. Is that what open payment means? It's kind of like an agreement to pass the cash through?
An agreement to pass the cash through and opening up your network for Interledger to be enabled to, yes, talk to other banks, basically. Talk to other banks, talk to other organizations, APIs. Whereas now they're just like, no, we don't want to talk to you. Leave us alone.
Right. So this is very similar to, I'm sorry, Kerry, I'll let you go after this. This is very similar to wireless telecom roaming. If you remember in the way old days, you had to have roaming agreements. And if it didn't have a roaming agreement, the phone call would just drop. And open payments is basically roaming for banks.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
It's all yours, free.
Are you sure?
Thank you.
Are you finished? Cool.
Oh, for gosh sake, stop talking. Let the woman speak.
Thanks. So while you were talking, what I was thinking of is how difficult it is even now. Like, say you're using crypto and you want to send somebody Bitcoin, right? But they have their wallet set up to receive ETH or something. You can screw up and just lose your money, and it just goes absolutely nowhere, and nobody benefits. So it sounds like this makes it much easier. You're making it simpler for people to pass value to one another.
Yes. So you have to, the sender and receiver have to agree, and they have a special key that they I'm trying to put it in layman's terms. They have a special key that they agree upon, and they each both know. And so then once you agree on that and the amount, then it goes. So that way it's just not, lost in space.
I was surprised in researching you for the show that so many people don't have any kind of bank account or financial account.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, how many people are we talking about, and like how does Interledger help with that?
So it's 1/3 of the world, which is about 1.7 billion people who are unbanked. And as I mentioned before, it's because they're like, the banks were like, you don't make enough money, you're not putting enough money through us, it's not worth it to us to build a branch or offer you financial services. But then came the money mobile providers, and they saw that it was trillions of dollars. All those small transactions added up to trillions of dollars. And so now they're like, oh wait, we have to get in on this emerging market.
That's nice of them.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
let's-
what Interledger can do for all these mobile money providers that have popped up is make it so where they're interoperable with each other, and also with the banks that are now interested in getting in on the game. We can make it interoperable with them and the money mobile providers, make it interoperable between them and what they call retail CBDCs, or central bank digital currency that goes directly to people from the central banks. And they're also looking at central bank digital currencies to go from the central banks to the regional local banks as well.
Leslie says, I used to help people with Western Union where I used to work, which is so much different than the apps now, but this is definitely quite an advancement. My gosh, Western Union.
Yeah.
Still alive and well out there.
Nobody
alive.
ever sent me a telegram. Nobody wired me no money on Western Union. I missed that whole boat.
Yeah,
There's still
and a
huge
lot of
swaths of the world that use it though, right, Brianna? I mean,
they
primary.
do. MoneyGram is still, Western Union and MoneyGram is still the way to receive money if you're in a place that does not have the technological advancements or any banks. So a lot of people still use it. Again, $16 billion, and that's from the US. It was, how many people? I think it's 200 million people worldwide sent money to 800 million people last year. So
I was not one of them. Not to complain.
So imagine like how much in fees they rack up. They're up to 20% in fees that they charge to send money. So yeah.
Well, that's the other side of the story. And I mean, probably part of what your advocacy is about is that the underbanked and the unbanked are the ones who get the worst of the fees. And I was going to lean into that because my thought is that all I saw everywhere in Interledger was just passing value around. Is micro lending there, or is micro lending coming? Because that's another area where, again, a lot of predatory situations happen, 20, 25 payday loans, that kind of a thing.
Yes.
Is micro lending coming into Interledger, or is that not part of your charter?
Well, it could come into it. Right now, it's not part of it. That we're always exploring different ways that the technology can be used for, to prevent predatory practices like this. I grew up in Detroit where we had all of those payday loans to get, from paycheck to paycheck. So yeah, that is an area I'm definitely interested in looking at and seeing how this technology could possibly prevent that from happening.
So what made you want to get involved with Interledger? Like, what was it about when you came across the business, however you came across it, what made you want to be part of the team there?
So like I said, I grew up in Detroit and had seen so many times how it was difficult for people to open a bank account if there was even a bank in their area. And so they had to resort to the corner stores where they charge like super high fees. And mostly everybody in Detroit was living at or below the poverty level. And so they couldn't afford to give a part of their paycheck for these, high fees. And so fast forward to when I'm an adult working, I worked in accounting and finance, and I always chose, I had a brief stint with a corporation. I was like, this isn't for me. And so I went to nonprofits and foundations where I'm like, I really feel that I need to be at an organization that I believe in the mission. And so we had to try to send money overseas, and we would get people who were calling us and, crying or like stressed out because they hadn't gotten their money yet. And so I just saw how difficult it was. And we usually absorb the fees, which were a lot in some cases. And so I just saw how difficult it was trying to send payments across the world. And when I was approached with this opportunity, like I said, I have lots of experience in the foundation nonprofit world, not so much in the payment space and tech space, but I was familiar with this. And so when I learned about what Interledger could do, I was like, why isn't this already a thing? Like, how come this is taking so long to implement? So I was really, really excited to work on this project. And I said, even if I don't get the job, how do I contribute? How do I get involved in this? So that's how
you know it's the right spot for you, right? When you're like, even if you
it's
don't
been
hire
really
me.
fun so far. The foundation has been in operation for a little over a year now, and it's been really, really great so far.
Leslie says they had a lot of migrant workers who would send money home every week to Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Brianna, what's the agenda for the rest of the year and into 22? Like what has to happen? What sort of execution has to happen to make this more accessible and more available all over?
Yeah, so we have to build more partnerships with like central banks and build more partnerships with startups because financial inclusion is the buzzword that's going around now. Everybody's talking about it like, okay, so what are we going to do about it? So we need to make partnerships with organizations, startups, and we are looking right now, Grant for the Web, at some of these newfound organizations that are contributing to the technology, want to add on to the nodes. We give out awards for people who want to experiment with it, do research on it. And so we're really looking at like, where are some of the gaps in the technology and where are some of the gaps in partnerships and building and strengthening those.
So what about people who kind of still don't get it, like people who are not up on the technology side and themselves have never had a problem? Like, is there a way to get people to appreciate the value of the mission when they themselves have never had that struggle?
I think that would require a bit of empathy. Just because you haven't been through something personally, does that mean that you can't relate to other people who are struggling? I think that it calls for a case of, do you want to get your money faster, say, for instance? Do you want it less expensive? Do you want to not have a million apps on your phone to be able to transact with your friends and family? So I think that it can appeal to a good number of people.
Save your bandwidth. Well, just over the last 18 months, I haven't been blown away by the compassion I've seen. So working on making the case. Yeah.
So I have a help me be less stupid question. I still don't understand what happens out at the far end. So I'm in some village and I hear, oh, great news. Brianna's truck just rolled up. The world's going to change for me. What happens on that end? Like, so in the middle, I get it. Like, I get that the banks, you have to all day long convince another bank to put the train tracks in. That's what the society has to do the most. But how does it get right into the hands of somebody at the bodega or whatever they call a bodega in like Mumbai?
So
how does that happen?
So that's one of the things that we're working on. We're launching a research project, but what's going to happen, you have a digital wallet, right? And that's connected to the person at the bodega has a digital wallet. You have your digital wallet and you're like, okay, we want to exchange money. There we go. It's just like a click on your phone and there you go. We do have digital wallets available right now, but we don't have them in the specific areas that we're looking to target. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for partners who want to build those things in those areas that are in high need of this technology.
How about something like a chip or just scan my eye or something? Because I'm ready. I don't want to have to carry anything. I want to be able to just leave my house without my purse or my phone and pay for stuff.
Quite that far. Just scan your eye. Like
possibly
QR code embedded in your eye, not yet.
Well, one of the criticisms that I've heard of payment technologies, even wiring funds, is that a lot of them go through, like nefarious criminal activities, like kidnappers and stuff, find ways to use this technology and get like straw men to stand up and claim money and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And people are, legitimately concerned about that kind of thing. So how do you keep technology like yours out of the wrong hands?
Well, we partner with people who have the correct licenses to operate in their countries. And in order to do that, you have to send people through KYC, know your customer, where they have to submit documentation. But also, that can be an area of an obstacle for people who might not be able to do a lot of KYC. So one thing that we've been exploring is how do we do a KYC light, right? So how are we able to eliminate this barrier to entry for people who may not have ID, who are just sending low value payments? Like it's not, big payments that should trigger an alert anywhere. And so trying to figure out, okay, how do we attach this? What does digital identity look like? How do we incorporate all of these things into the technology to be able to put it into the hands of people that need it the most?
Can we talk about some of the things the foundation is funding as well?
Sure. So we're funding some really interesting things. We have the Diverse Gamers Association that we gave a grant to, and they're looking at, they gave awards to different diverse gamers across who are building games in different parts of the world. So that was one. We gave a grant to Addis Futures Lab, who's out in Ethiopia. And they're looking at how to bring creatives into the web monetization space and trying to enable them another alternative to being able to make money. We just gave a grant to the Crown magazine that is looking to monetize their work and bring their very award-winning magazine online and digital and being able to be web monetized. So we have a lot of really, really cool awards and grants, and we have people doing research, and it's really amazing work. If you go to grantfortheweb.org and look at grantees, you can see the list of grantees that we have, and just a really diverse list of grantees.
Grantfortheweb.org.
Yes.
Perfect. Leslie had a question. I just want to make sure I don't miss it. Do you feel banks need to embrace the new technology and keep up with the new ways people are sending and receiving money to retain their customers?
I definitely think that banks need to be more open to innovation. And right now they're doing a lot of research around CBDCs. But yes, I feel like people are finding ways to surpass the banks and be able to transact with each other without incurring the really high fees. So I think in order for them to stay relevant, they're going to always be relevant because the government has a say in what they do and how they can put a stop to a lot of the technology and innovation that's going on. But I think it would behoove them to embrace new technologies, new innovation, to keep up with the world.
We talked just briefly about this at one point. Who benefits the most from this technology getting out to more places? Like if Brianna, you find in 2022, you've quintupled the amount of touch points that you had before.
Yeah.
Like, does Citibank throw a party, or like what happens? Who gets excitable that there's suddenly more unbanked people who are now banked?
I think the formerly unbanked people are the people who get excited and stand to gain the most from being able to participate in their digital economy and with lower fees. I think they are the ones who stand to benefit the most from this technology. The banks, sure, that would be great, but ultimately who we want to reach are the people who have been left behind.
Is this all really just selfish interest on your part because you like to move around and you need an easy way to pay for stuff?
Maybe a little bit. I need to go visit everywhere where we're making an impact. Yeah.
Just bring your Interledger wallet with you.
Exactly.
So we've talked a couple times just on the edges of crypto, the fact that this got excitable to the fellas when they were dealing with that world a little. And you mentioned Ripple a couple times, which is one of the more interesting. They have a lot of interesting use cases that aren't just pass money around. Will this get easier or harder where there's more crypto in the world, and when countries finally go, that's fine, it's money?
Yeah, I think it'll be easier. I definitely think it would be easier, especially if it's on the network, on the Interledger network, and you're able to, have all these different cryptocurrencies and able to exchange based on whatever it is your preference is. I think it's much, much easier that way versus if you're in a closed network.
Still not easy enough for people.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. Every time I try to do something with crypto, there's literally like 17 steps nobody told me about. So the smart people would be like, just go do this thing. And I'm like, cool. So I go to do it and they're like, not like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I'm a newbie to this world as well. And so I was surprised by how many steps it takes to, establish a wallet and start to do things with crypto. So yeah,
Really?
I feel your pain.
Except screw up. I can do that with crypto pretty good.
Total pro. So we've come to this part of this.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
I think we have to give it to Leslie. We've had a lot of good back and forth and good questions with Leslie. So you get to be our person of the day. Leslie, that entitles you to one free apple. Could be cinnamon apple this time of year. You just have
Any kind of
to
apple you want. Just have to buy it yourself, wash it, cut it up into slices, serve it with peanut butter or whatever you're into.
Like caramel apple.
This time of year.
Mhm.
I have braces. I can't eat any apples, period. I know. It's going to be 18 months or so.
Yeah.
No apples for me.
No apples.
I won't
for
be
you.
person of the day for months and months.
So it is now time to ask the question we've asked every guest we've ever had on the show, which is what goes in your backpack. This could be something physical. It could be something metaphorical. Kerry, what's a good example of something physical you could throw in a backpack?
Ooh, extra set of teeth.
An extra set of teeth. That's always a good one.
DJ
How about
Cumberbund gave us that one. We're like, huh?
There's something metaphorical we could add to a backpack? Probably
I think
not, right?
kindness is probably the best answer I've heard for that.
Kindness. That's a good one.
Well, Ariel
Brianna,
Helvetica.
yes, exactly.
Burlesque performer Ariel Helvetica put kindness in her backpack.
She did. On the same day that we had one of our favorite guests, Nikki Porcher,
Love
buy
her.
from a Black woman. So, Briana Marbury, if that's your real name, what would you add to the backpack?
It is a real name. Stop it.
My real name. I would add to my backpack tenacity, because I think it really, really takes, like, you can be the smartest person, but like if you don't have that grit, you have to like go at it and keep at it until you succeed. And then I would add cookies, because I like cookies and I like cookies. So
now we're talking. That's the new best answer of the backpack.
I do like cookies.
I mean, what kind?
My grandma's a Toll House cookie kind of guy. So,
well, I make cookies that are milk chocolate, caramel, and pecan. Those are my
that's fancy.
Cookies. Yeah.
You fancy. I go the straight ahead Nestle Toll House cookie recipe on the back of the bag recipe, which is why it's so funny when people are like, these cookies are amazing. I need your recipe. I'm like, flip the bag over.
Or that.
On the back, you'll see.
Well, that's a reasonable answer. No, my grandma was a Toll House cookie person, but she'd do them in that sort of deep dish, almost like Chicago deep dish pizza of cookies. And I used to never realize that there was always a brand new batch. I never understood. Every time I went to her house, there was never a single cookie missing. I just thought that's naturally how they came.
She had a secret stash.
I mean, she must have.